What's up, Star Wars Unlimited fans? It's Loopy here at Late Night Gaming, and we are coming back at you with Han Green Remastered. So we have two different players from two different teams. SunnyD is from Team Sekrit and actually was one of the hosts of our first Han Green Masterclass. How you doing, bud?
Doing well. It's been a long minute since we've had our last Han Green podcast, but glad to be back.
Yeah,
and a lot has changed.
A lot has changed, and we're looking forward to it. Sunny, you recently did very well with this.
Yes, yeah. So I've been playing Han Green mostly since even the start of the game, and recently took it to some PQs this season, topped them, top bunch of events in the Twilight season as well. Won a PQ there. KTOD in Denver with it. So pretty well.
Very good. And then we're also joined by the trophy husband himself, Alex Blandin. How you doing?
How's it going, guys?
All right. So that's actually a black version of that shirt. Does that mean you have multiple shirts that say trophy husband on it?
No, this is the only one. In fact, I'm not even sure where you got the white one with the black lettering. That's a custom. This is the only one I own.
All right. So yeah, Symbiode, get your act together. It's black with white lettering, not white with black. But I do love the thumbnail that our master memes does. Have you ever played Han Green before, Alex?
No, not until this set, I think. I tried it a little in set 3 because I was trying to take a break from Han Yellow and do something more original. But no, I not really all that much, especially not like this. I had only played like the casino version. I'd never played anything with like pilot. I mean, obviously couldn't, but like I'd never played a style like this before.
And you've done well with this deck in set 4?
I would say so, yeah. I guess that depends who you ask, but I would say by my own personal standards, I've done pretty well.
And you did actually, I think, top 8 at both Richmond and Minnesota. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right.
Not too bad.
Though Tada says that he would have beat you in Richmond. Is that true?
Would he have? I don't know what. Maybe. I mean, it's possible. That's the Kira matchup is certainly one of my my harder ones, so it's entirely possible. Yeah.
All right, but not clear by any means. All right, so let's talk about the list. First off, this is actually your list, Alex, from Minnesota. So tell me about Han Green as it sits today, as we're in the trailing end of set 4.
So I think Han Green had actually a lot better, at least this variant, had a lot better positioning back at the beginning of the meta than it does now, and I'll talk about that and why. So back in Richmond, funny enough, we were actually using, or at least me and a few of my other teammates were using SWU-DB, the, what do you call it, the DB stats thing to keep track of play rates online.
SWU stats.
Yeah, SWU stats. Thank you. Sorry, I apologize. Yeah, we're using SWU stats to keep track of play rates online. And I was actually basing my decision-making on what I was seeing, and what we were seeing was Sabine and Quinlan were the two most dominant decks. And then CAD was kind of up there, and there are a few other decks in the mix. But what we were seeing was a lot of 25 HP bases. And I really wanted to capitalize on this. And one thing that all of these 25 HP bases have in common is, one, they don't really like getting raced down because they're so squishy. And two, they don't fight very well in space, believe it or not. So I had actually, I played against Sunny here in the Beatle 3v3, and I kind of liked what his deck had going on, with all the space stuff. So I think I initially hit him up and said, hey, man, let's talk about this Han Green deck that you played. That wouldn't have personally been, like, I didn't like it in Django meta. I mean, I played Han Yellow, and I didn't like that either. But I think now I liked what I saw when we played. Let's talk about this a little more. Let's see where you think it stands. And we kind of went from there. I think I initially changed maybe, Sunny might know better, but maybe 5 or 6 cards got changed from the initial list. I don't know what the total number at the end of the day was.
It wasn't too much. So are you talking about from that Richmond
from
list?
Yeah.
or from Seattle.
From Seattle to Richmond.
Right.
Yeah.
It was very close. Funny thing is, like, as soon as the Django suspension was announced, it was that day itself that Alex and I started collaborating on this. I think you reached out to me maybe like a few hours later, right? Yeah. But,
I didn't even realize. Yeah, I guess it was that day.
It was that same day, and then we were talking about it since. But I would say from the Django meta, there was like a few differences in the list to Richmond, but what Alex said for Richmond still applied even during the Django meta, because even that meta it was primarily Tarkin Town 25 HP bases that you had to deal with, right? Both Quinlan and Django both played that. And I felt that maybe the deck was just as well positioned in that meta, even though it wasn't played until post Django ban. And there was reasonings why I thought that. At Seattle and at the Denver sector, I had not lost to Django Tarkentown in Denver, and then I went like 5 or 6-2 against Django in Seattle. And the losses were, one of the losses in Seattle was to a 30 HP. That was Kodamron, right? And that's because the deck is built to clock the 25 HP a lot easier than 30.
Right.
And then I mentioned I didn't lose to Django Tarkentown in Denver, but I lost to Daniel Hall, who was the winner, and that was also 30 HP, right?
Right.
But it had a lot of tech choices in that meta for Django where I thought it would.
So,
would
you
be
know,
good.
we have a lot of pilots in the deck. So, you know, it's trying to often push damage in space early using pilots, and then kind of Hans endgame towards the end where you start getting into the Hans and emphasis, you know, as well. All right, so this is the list you just played, Sunny?
Yeah, this is the list I played just yesterday at a PQ in Baltimore. And I did go undefeated with this list. And there's some of the same theory applies between 30 and Data Vault. I didn't stray too far away from the game plan that even the 30 has. It just what you get out of 33 is the ability to tech a few more cards. You basically get an extra sideboard, and then you get the 3 HP, which matters in a few game scenarios, right? Where you're racing, they'll clock you like by one action at 30, but they won't clock you at 33, and then you can swing it that way. But in terms of the card ratios, the only significant, I guess, loss is the ability to draw resupply in 50 cards versus 60 cards, and then I'll let Alex touch on that too. But the ratios for the space units, the 7s, those and the pilots, those and even the smuggles didn't really change because you just up those by 1 or 2 cards, and then if you do the math, it's about the same.
Yeah, there's an excellent video by Mo the Monster. I actually linked it. DJ Claire told me about it, but it actually talks about the math. And, you know, it depends on where in the cost curve it is. The later in the cost curve, the less you have to adjust for Data Vault. But for the most part, if you add one of a similar card, it gets you to a similar ratio.
So if you look at Alex's mini list, it's 14 turn 1 space plays, and then now there's 15. And then in this list, there's also one thing I didn't mention is the damage pumps, right? So I think there was like 5 damage pumps or 6 damage pumps in 30 HP versus 7 in 33. So you just up it by 1 card and you're nearly there.
So as you sit here today, I mean, you obviously played Data Vault yesterday, you know? Do you want to argue that position for why it might be better, and we'll give it to Alex for the counterpoint?
Yeah, sure. First off, I'm not 100% sold it's better. So it's hard to argue that point, but I can argue that it does help you in those situations where you have to race with decks. So not yesterday, but at a PQ in May, I did play Data Vault as well, and there I would not have topped if I had lost to the Sabine ECL in the very final round. And he had me at 26 and then played a 4 cause and hit me to 30, and then I hit him for game, right? So in that situation, it mattered, right? It made the difference between going X2 and X1.
What other matchups might the extra 3 health actually matter? I can see why Sabine.
I think it matters versus Vader 4 when they're racing you and you're not able to like start the fast units to deal with them, and then you kind of have to like, one of my best late game kind of like options to stop them from rolling you is Tantive 4, right? So it gives you like an extra action or two, or even like a round. That sometimes translates to a round, right? In those situations. And one more situation is probably versus Han 2. ECL, similar to Sabine, they can be pretty aggro. Some builds even play like the tank. I forgot the name. The
Guerrilla
vehicle
attack
that comes in ready. Yeah, Guerrilla attack pod, right? And then they put you in a situation where like they can hit you right to 30 or 31, and then this takes you out of range of that. That's actually come up for me in tournament versus Paul Heaver, which is one of the.
All right.
He was one of the architects that worked with Crispy.
Alex, why have you stayed on 30?
So the biggest reason, Sunny mentioned it earlier, is just resupply. There are very specific matchups where you have to see resupply. There are no exceptions. Like, this is your best card. You're trying to do it. They're actually far more prevalent now in the current meta than they were at Richmond. In fact, there are very few decks in Richmond that I really wanted to resupply into. It was kind of just an incidental, like, oh, I drew this, I have nothing better to do, okay, I'll resupply. Like, the Cads, the Quinlins, and the Sabines, I was never looking to resupply. It was just always an incidental, like, we're here, let's do it, especially since a lot of them at the time were citing Champs and Dula. I don't want them to ramp. I would rather they didn't ramp than me ramp personally, especially the Cads, which flip on 6. I'm not trying to put them there any faster and have them develop a body out of it. It's really now, a lot of these decks, though, your game plan is just resupply against both Han 2s, blue and green. Even though they have Cham, you don't care. Those ones you're really trying to resupply because their leader flip's actually pretty unimpactful. And for the most part, your late game is actually a little bit better than theirs, especially if you have the extra Enfys and big Hans. The Data Vault version actually really struggles. I actually played against Co Dameron at Minnesota, and he said one of the things the deck struggles with the most is the number 6 for HP. He said there's just no way to get at a guy with 6 HP. It's very, very difficult. You have to use timely interventions and stuff, like, because you have guys like Record that are hitting for 5. You have all these, like, you have like Hammerhead, where the difference between getting 5 and 6 cards is like a huge difference. And I don't even think he was playing Hammerhead, but still, like, it's just a very big gap for them. Han Blue has a few more tools to deal with this, like Fell the Dragon. But again, like, guys like Big Han, especially Enfys Nest, just hit like a truck. If they don't have a way to get rid of it right away, the Enfys gets a blaster, the Big Han gets a blaster, and it just kind of just runs over whatever they have to play, whether that's Luke, whether that's even Crate Dragon, when it comes down, can be killed by Big Han. Because he only has 80 HP, so if you put a blaster on Big Han, he just gets first strike, and then he only does the damage back to you. Right. It's obviously very important in the Kira matchup. It's big against the Ray matchup, too. You're trying to just ramp and just trade all their guys, so flipping early is super important, especially because they flip a turn after you, so you're just like, they're, as Wu put it, they're 1-4 tribal. So flipping your Han is 4 attack, your Han Ambusher is 4 attack, your Blue Leader is 5 attack, your Big Han, your Enfys, just all of these ambushers and all of these bombs are how you're trying to beat a raid deck. So just getting there faster is very, very important. So yeah, just those decks that are kind of on the rise in popularity. There's still a good amount of Quinlins. There's still a good amount of Sabines. Just they were a lot more prevalent, I felt, at Richmond. At least Quinlan was. Yeah, Sabine's about the same level of prevalence.
Certainly, and I was surprised at the level of drop off. It didn't surprise me that Quinlan dropped off from the best deck, but it dropped down to like under 5%, but actually converted very
That
well.
being said, I think that it's switched now because of the popularity of Vader 4, right? Vader 4 kind of has a good matchup versus some of those Rey and Kira Data Vault decks that have popped up.
Right.
And because of that, Quinlan is coming back too. So.
No, I mean, Quinlan shouldn't have dropped as low as it did. I mean, it was probably an overcorrection, but I mean, it does have some weaker matchups. Let's talk about the new cards. I mean, Han Solo pilot. This is just kind of objectively good. True. What are you using this for?
Yeah, this is I think it's overall the best pilot in the deck, and I guess Alex would probably agree there. Bimodal, able to be in ground and then boost the pilot, ambush in ground actually specifically, and then boost the pilot.
What matchups are the ambush in ground good for?
Yeah, I would say the ambush in ground is especially important in 2 matchups, which are actually kind of like if you don't approach them right, you can get blown out, and it's Kira Data Vault and Rey.
Right.
Those are the 2.
Right.
Yep.
And
I'd agree with that.
And Kira, I mean, he can kill Kira and survive.
Yeah, that's the big one. That's the most important thing.
And for Rey, I mean, going back to Wu's comment, which I had not heard but is amusing and correct, it's 1/4 tribal. You know, he can 2-for-1, maybe 3-for-1 on the ground arena. Into all.
Yeah, oftentimes he 3-for-1 somehow against a lot of those units, those small units.
And I do.
I think the versus Vader 4, he's like extremely good too, because like he can not take damage back, and then like he can do kind of the similar thing where he's just like 3-for-1ing stuff.
Right. No, in fact,
or even if you want to race them, you can race them. Right?
I have a Quinlan list that has him in it. You know, that's better against Vader because of the first strike type ability and being able to snipe a victor leader. Alex, how's Han Pilot played for you these events?
Honestly, he's fantastic. The modal of being able to ambush, like Sunny said, is huge. This guy does so much though in space. Because he makes you attack immediately, he's able to dodge a lot of the things I fear when piloting, which is stuff like Bamboozle, stuff like Fang Fighter. So if they do it, he's kind of just like a surprise strike with upside, right? Like if they have it, fine, at least I did my damage. But if they don't have it, now I've got a permanent surprise strike on my guy, sort of, which is really big. He's great at taking your own AT haulers back or taking their AT haulers. So if they get an AT hauler, you play a Falcon, you pilot it, and just first strike it away, take it back, which is awesome. I mean, this guy's kind of the go to pilots, in my opinion. I think Chewbacca is honestly a little overrated as a pilot right now because so many people, the decks where it's good, just so many people have outs to it. So I'm far more Team Han, especially since his versatility on the ground is a little bit more, it has a little bit more upside. Chewie's only really good in one matchup, where Han, yes, there's 2 really good matchups, but there's a bunch of other corner cases for him on the ground where Chewie is typically just a 5-6 vanilla a lot of the time.
Yep. Makes sense. And certainly good. Let's talk about Chewie. So unanswered, he's a beast. I mean, you mentioned some of the answers. Anything blue is usually going to have 3 of the no glories if it's black, trying to provide an out. How often are you playing him as a pilot as opposed to on the ground with Han Green? Let me pose it that way to you. 0. Yep.
I actually almost never pilot with him anymore. I did a lot in Richmond when people didn't know what was up. Now everybody knows what's up. I've seen a lot of people describe this as like a high roll deck. I've seen it all the time in the discourse. I've seen several even high profile content creators say this is just a high roll deck, but I watch this on stream all the time and people just go ship turn 1, Chewie turn 2, and they're playing against like a blue control deck, and then all of a sudden their opponent's like ramp no glory, and you're just like, oh, I lost this. I didn't high roll this time. And like, I never pilot this guy ever. When he gets piloted, honestly, it's just in the late game when I need reach to try to finish, to like
Yep.
try to close out. Like sometimes they're holding like a low amount of cards in hand. I don't have a lot of great plays. He's too slow on the ground, so I just go, okay, deal. And like that's where he's most useful, because once you've seen, like if you're playing control deck, you've seen them use 1 or 2 no glories and their data vault, or like they're not playing traders anymore. Like you've seen them use some of these outs, or like they don't have a guy on the board for barrage and we're already past Kira flip. Like that's where this becomes like an actual thing, because now they're so much less likely to answer it. And if they're already under pressure, this guy's a hell of a lot more scarier, because they have to take what might be a crucial turn where they need to develop like a threat or a bomb or like some sort of end game to just deal with this so they don't die. Honestly, Chewy's realist application is just being on the ground. He just pops out of U-Wing with a 2-drop, Chewy and a 2E as I call it, and he just threatens Kira's life pretty much. Like
Right.
that's his function for me, is just he's very good against Kira. He's also a pilot versus Sabine. That's the one time he does actually get piloted. So when I say 0, it's not literally 0, but Chewy could be any pilot versus Sabine. He could be a vanilla pilot that says +3/+3. It doesn't actually matter that he has this extra line of text that doesn't really do anything versus Sabine. He's just a means to reach them faster. Like he could honestly be Poe. The only upside to him is that he gives 3 attack. So again, like this guy pretty much as a pilot, it's like against Sabine, but that could be anything. And then versus Kira sometimes in late game, sometimes versus random decks in late game. Like I said, I need a little reach. I know they probably don't have an answer to it. I'll run it down like randomly against, like in game 1 versus the control decks. I'll put it on a holler in the late game, because if they no glory it, at least I get the holler back. So there's like some cute little tricks with it, but
That's interesting.
this card's really just here for Kira. Kira and Sabine, like mainly Kira, just as a ground unit.
Oh, and
Yeah. So I know you mentioned Sabine is where you would pilot it, but like even against Quinlan, I think you can pilot. And this is really
Sure. Yeah, Quinlan, I've changed my strategy a little bit. Quinlan, I've started going a little wider than taller, because now they're all playing Bamboozles. They're all playing Fang Fighters. At Richmond, Michael was the only person who was aware of like what was going on and was playing Fang Fighters main. I didn't play against any Quinlans that like, I didn't see very many Quinlans even that were playing Fang Fighters main. So like the strategy had to change, and that's why I think it was better at Richmond than it is now. It's just people know what's up. You can't just slam pilot turn 1 anymore. I do pilot this versus Quinlan, don't get me wrong, but most of the time I'm just trying to churn out space guys is how I like to play against them.
Space like Quinlan, it's a little stronger. This card, one thing I'll say is like this is one of the biggest like dynamic changes from beginning of the pilot strategy to like where it is now, right? Because this was right at the start. That did seem like the unhindered most powerful pilot, right? Then everyone started playing different outs, and then you realize that you really don't use this to pilot. Just like Alex said, he never pilots it. I piloted it like once yesterday in my PQ, and it was in the situation that Alex mentioned, not at the beginning of the game, but like later in the game for reach.
Right. And I mean, as you go later into a match of Star Wars Unlimited, you know, if you're going against something like Kira, at some point their removal gets strained, and at some point you might know what's in it too, because you might have played a Kira yourself, right?
Yeah.
So you actually know exactly what's in their hand, and it may make sense is if you're then trying to push it, because then, you know, if you know that they're out what they would have to top deck, it's there. It obviously turns off Avenger, it turns off Power of the Dark Side, either way, you know, if it's there.
Yeah, that's the huge application. I mean, it's also, versus Bosk too. It's the same idea.
Yeah.
But we can group those together.
And also, I mean, one other place I think he's good is anything that's going to a Super Laser Blast. I mean, if the board state is such that the Super Laser Blast is happening, you know, anyway, I mean, that can be real strong, because then whatever he's on doesn't die, but they got to do it because of the rest of the crap. All right, let's talk about, this is one of my favorite cards of the set, you know, and it plays in a lot of deck, Blue Leader. It's extremely versatile because it can ambush space and ground. Where are you liking this card? Where is it helping?
Yeah, like you said, this was probably my favorite card in the set when JTL was previewed and then even launched. I was so hype on this. There weren't really a lot of things that are bimodal ambush cards. Now, since that, I actually think like the 3/3 ambush in space is not as good as initially thought, but I thought the 5/5 ambush is great, because before you used to run like syndicate lackeys, right? And that was a 5/4. In villain decks, you used to run like boss 4/5 ambush for the same cost. So this, combined with the fact that it has applications in space to deal with turn 1 plays, was what made it so good. But just like Han Pilot, you need an out to the Kira flip, and this gives you that out on usually the same timing. Or if it's not the same timing, sometimes you have to just put down one resource with the Han effect, right?
Blue Leader thoughts, Alex? Where do you like this?
Love it. Great card. Sad to see we have a joke. I don't know if this is like a wider thing, but we always joke at KTOD that all the best cards in Star Wars Unlimited past set 1 are uncommons. So this is a card that easily could have been a $5 rare, but instead it's a 5-cent common or uncommon. And you see that a lot in the new set. I won't get into that too much, but I think this card's awesome. Vader, too, with the Rise of Vader, this is the single best card you can open if you go first versus Vader.
Right.
Because unlike the Falcon, this attacks in 1 action. So what happens if you go first is you go, okay, I'll activate, put 1 down with Han. They go play their 1-drop. You go, okay, I'll play an ambush immediately. If they play another 1-drop, you claim and just kill that guy too, so they never get to get their token off. Unlike Falcon, who has to take an action to attack. So if you do that, you play Falcon, they play a guy. You play the Falcon, they play another one, and then you attack.
Right.
So, it's certainly this only matters if you go first, but it does have its upsides there, and it does a bunch of other things. Like it now, you have just like another Falcon to take care of, like the A-wings, or like either of the A-wings. You can't value trade the green one, but you can still value trade the red ones. If you're playing against the blue hero decks, you can take care of the restore 2/3 arc. You can kill that one. So it's just like, it's a powerful way to dominate space early and kind of keep them off of any space nonsense they might be trying, but to also in the late game as a big ambusher, like versus Rey, this card just slays every creature in their deck in the early game pretty much. So it's great there.
Yep. And are you ever ambushing it in the space and then using the when played to put it on ground going forward?
So I actually was trying, I lost count at some point, but I was trying to count how many times I came up in Minnesota. I honestly forget. I couldn't tell you. I can tell you how many times I piloted Chewbacca, but I can't remember how many times I did that. But I can tell you in the 14-round event or 13-round event plus the 2 rounds of Top Cut, or 1 round of Top Cut or whatever, it probably happened like 2, maybe 3 times in all of the times I played. It does not come up very often. It's very rare that they have a thing you can value trade in space, but you also have the resources to put it on the ground and want it on the ground. So, like, very rarely does that come up. But it is, when it does come up, it's still very good. It's still a great option to have.
And, you know,
it came up a little bit more in the Django meta, surprisingly, when they had, like, Zygerian Starhopper, and some people played Cartel Spacer. Right. Sometimes you would ambush those and then move it to ground so that like it presents a threat against the Django leader.
I think that's good if you're like winning the ground arena, you know, and there's something that it can kill, and then it can move, and then it, you know, there, and you can still pilot it on the ground, right? I mean, you can still add value if it's late in sequence. All right.
I don't think I've ever done that in tournament.
I've done it. It's a rare edge case that it happens, but I've done it as well. And then same thing as Alex said, it's far and a few where I've taken out something in space and then moved it to ground. Mm-hmm. It's usually either like one or the other that's happening.
Right. All right. AT Hauler. This is a card that certainly has a downside because they can take it sometimes. So why? Let me ask it this way. We'll start with Alex. Why isn't the downside keeping this out of the deck? I mean, aren't people taking your AT Haulers? How are you getting them back?
So I have a lot to say about AT Hauler because it's like one of the most common cards I see where people are like, why is this here? I don't get this card. I don't like this card. Let's cut it from the list. Like, actually, after I think it was Richmond, I watched 4 different videos from various content creators, some big ones, some small ones. 3 of these content creators said, I have no idea why Stolen AT Holler is in this list. Only one person, and it was a very small YouTube channel, I can't even remember the name of it, they had maybe like 100 subs or something, understood exactly the reason why it was in there. So props to them. I wish I could shout you out. I just can't remember your name.
All right.
But,
so what is the reason it's in the deck? Then?
Yeah, okay. So we'll get to it.
Don't keep us in suspense, bud.
Okay, so AT Holler is here for the Richmond decks that I talked about originally. It's Sabine, Cad, Quinlan, and they just have a very hard time dealing with space, especially post Tarkentown. This guy is very good versus both Quinlan and Cad because the first ping plus a Tarkentown doesn't kill it. So if you can get a pilot on in that window, now they just have to deal with this guy. Like now they need like a Bamboozle, or like if they're randomly playing Open Fire, McClunky, or whatever, they need some other way to answer this. And if you can bait them into using Tarkentown on the first thing like a Falcon, and then you slam this, now it's really impossible to deal with. Here's the other thing. So against Sabine, they have two real lines to beat you. The main one is just they go green guy, Sabine's Masterpiece ECL, and they value trade every other space unit in the deck except this guy. This is the only guy they can't actually kill with that Masterpiece. He also hits one harder, which is all that really matters, because by the time they kill this guy and get to bring him back, they'll already be pretty much dead. Like they're almost never going to be able to do it in a clean manner where they're going to be able to abuse the tempo this guy gives them. That extra damage is huge from him. That extra health is extremely huge because he can't be killed by the Sabine's Masterpiece. Here's another thing that I see very few players recognize. When you play against this, your instinct is to take it from me. But what you don't realize is that I'm a space deck. You're not. Right. So you take this from me on, say, like, let's say you kill this on like 3 or 4R, right? Let's say it's 4R. Next turn's my 5R turn. Now I can go, okay, I'll even sometimes hold the big Falcon in my hand where I go, put one down, big Falcon, clean kill this, take it back. Now you've got 2 space units to deal with. People don't realize I can steal this back quite easily. A Falcon plus a Han pilot is going to take this back. Sometimes I'll even just ram a surprise trick plus a Falcon into this, or maybe even another pilot, just because I'm not losing anything. I lose a guy, but I just get your guy back. And now you probably can't kill this again. So a lot of times it's actually bait to bring this guy back, especially in the Quinlan matchup. That's one thing I love to see is when the Quinlan players bring this back, because I understand they're very poor at defending themselves in space, and my deck just dominates them in that arena. But if you want me to say the most important use case is just Sabine against Sabine's Masterpiece, you don't want them to have that absolutely perfect start against you. And this extra damage does actually matter a lot of times, where sometimes they try to race you when they don't have the Sabine's Masterpiece with Rebel Assault and Darksaber. And they can win that way, but this guy's 1 extra damage can sometimes be the difference between winning with the first action on the 5R turn and not, and having them Rebel Assault you and kill you. So I do think that's really, really big.
All right, great stuff. Where do you like Stolen AT Holler, Sunny?
Yeah, all the same matchups that Alex mentioned. The only 2 things that I guess you didn't mention that or you kind of touched upon, but I'll call out, is the 5 HP, right? When piloted, makes like this thing extremely hard to deal with against a deck like Quinlan, right? Yeah, if they have Disabling Fangfighter, they can still destroy the pilot and ping it, and then it will still have 4 HP. So like you can, it won't die to Tarkentown instantly. But there were so many situations in that where it changed the math. So oftentimes they would, if they don't play Disabling Fangfighters and they went, you went turn 1 space, put a pilot, and then they went Falcon. The fast Falcon, right? On their side, they could crash and then Tarkentown away, but this put them out of that range with Chewbacca, right? The other application, so Alex mentioned holding Big Han sometimes and then baiting to get it back. I do that a lot as well. I use this card as bait, and then or trade bait, where you just let them waste their actions to kill it, take it, and then you just end up taking it right back with the big Falcon. But the other niche, I mean, it's not so niche, but like post board and the 30 HP we have it is salvage. right? So same situation. You bait them into taking this, then you have 3 resources up, and you just salvage it back before they can even play it, right?
No, and I think it's right. And I think
that's a good one. I forgot that.
For Quinlan's perspective, I mean, you need to be careful about this thing. I think I've sniffed out Han Greens that were planning for me to play the AT hauler because I get a pass sometimes from them with like a ready thing. You know, they want me to actually drop it out, so you go and you should just claim. You know, don't give it to them back. Good stuff. All right, Phoenix Squadron A-Wing. I mean, it's obviously a simple card. It's completely vanilla. It's a Rebel 3/2 for 2. But why is this potentially in a better position than the kind of green Squadron A-Wing, which is a red card? Because all of the Rebel ships are just on the wrong color for the name. But why the 3/2 over the 1/3?
I mean, 3/2 over 1/3 is kind of self-explanatory because this is a aggro deck, right? So Alex mentioned that 1 damage matters a lot for Stolen AT Hauler, and it does for this too. But what's most important is for this card is not having to use a resource turn 1 and then playing this, right? I think that is why we included this in the deck. The 1/3 you can include for the same reason, but I think for the most part, like the amount or number of cards that you need in the 2 slot where you want to not put down a resource is 3. Argument can be made for a little bit more depending on how you want to lean later on using the resourcing of Han, but I think it was like a perfect fit of giving us some leverage in the turn 2, turn 3 by playing this without wasting an action and wasting a hand card, right?
All right.
Yep. And that's more or less it. It's a great target out of U-Wing. Like I said, you need 2 drops with Chewbacca. Space is great against Kira, which is one of the main places you want to play U-Wing. And then it has some corner case scenarios where when you have initiative, especially against decks like Vader, or even sometimes like decks that want to start A-Wing, you do get to play it, claim, and value trade, especially against Vader when you don't have the fast ships. Like if they play a 1-drop, you can, or a 1-attack guy, you can value trade it. So there are corner niche cases, but like you said, there's not much to say. It's a 3/2 vanilla.
Yep. So do you think this deck, you know, we're not going to talk too much about set 5, but I mean, do you need more copies of this card? Because there's a yellow one too. I mean, is that something that you're going? Does that relate to whether you're playing Data Vault or the 30?
Yeah. So if you're playing Data Vault, then maybe an argument can be made to use the new one as well in addition to this. Or I mean, they're the same card basically, 3/2, right? But you'd really have to do the math, I think, and I don't think I've done that yet, right? But I can see a world where you would want more than 3 copies, but right now 3 was what was the appropriate amount.
Okay. All right. New Falcon. It is a 3/4 in space. It basically gets a buff on its attack for each pilot on it, you know, which is kind of thematic. It's a cool design, right? Because Han, Chewie, Ryan, the Falcon, they're both in there as opposed to just one pilot. But when is this card good? When is this card winning you games?
It's not really winning you games anymore. Honestly, it got cut down to 2. I think this is like the night before or something, or 2 nights before I messaged Sunny and said, you know what? I'm done with Clown Car Falcon. Like, I'm going to cut this down to 2. I don't even like it. It was good in Richmond because, again, we're trying to pilot a bunch, and like you'd be shocked, like just playing it, like playing online and playing against some of the PQs, like how many wins against these Tartan Town decks you get where you're just like turn 1 Chewbacca, turn 1 Falcon rather, turn 2 Chewbacca, turn 3 Han, attack for 10, like, and you like assemble a clown car and you just like get them, but like that was not working anymore after Richmond. Everybody knew what was up. Like I was not assembling the clown car anymore. It was too risky. Everybody had outs. This is pretty much now its function is just like a 3/4 vanilla that sometimes with like a Han pilot will be like a 6 attack or something. It's just like density of ships for when you're playing against like Quinlan or Sabine or like Cat. It's just like you need a certain number of ships. Like even versus Kira, it's just like fine. It's a ship. It's something that comes out of U-Wing. It might as well just be an A-Wing pretty much at this point.
Yeah, so I would say that yes, that the dynamic has changed for this card quite a bit. where it's dropped to 2 in a 30 HP list, and then even my teammate who played yesterday didn't even play this card, right? And opted to play like more top end and then another Poe pilot instead. But I think in the situations where it still does become a clown car, is the Sabine situation. You can really roll them. They don't have an answer with the Sabine's masterpiece, right? And I think that situation with Han pilot still comes up a lot, like playing this and then Han piloting, attacking for 6. That still comes up a decent amount.
All right, you talked great transition, Sunny. Poe pilot. First off, how often are you casting him as a unit versus the direct pilot for 2?
Pretty often. Yeah, it's this is a card that, so in Beatle I did not play this card, and then I brought this card into the deck for the Denver sector. And then the Denver sector, it really overperformed. Yeah, so then I realized like this is a must play card. In Beatle I was playing the Luke pilot, which no longer either of us play. We don't think it's that great. But Poe pilot, we talked about Blue Leader being a bimodal card. This is like bimodal plus go wide, right? Or go tall, right? So you get a unit in 2 arenas or a big unit in 1 arena, and then you even have the option of just playing it for 2 and then doing something else on your turn with the resources. Very powerful. I think this shines in like every matchup to me, almost now.
Alex?
So this is a card, not to say that it doesn't shine in matchup. This is a card to me that, like, I know the one matchup where I really like it, it's Kira, because you're just trying to go wide versus them, or like if Boss existed, I would like this. I actually have come down a lot on this card. It's just a like high quality card, but it doesn't have an application that I like. Like it doesn't like. I like my deck to be filled with a lot of role fillers, at least for these Han decks. Like a lot of these cards fill a certain role. They do something in a certain scenario. This guy has like really become Ewing Vomit for me, which is fine. That's the role he's filling now, is he's just Ewing Vomit. I very rarely now actually ever cast this guy for 4. He's usually just like, I want my Ewing to churn out 3 guys. Here's a Fast Falcon, here's a Poe, here's a token. Maybe the Poe pilots the Falcon, who knows? But like I said, this guy is like kind of just like a Ewing Vomit card now. He's fine. He gets sided out in a lot of matchups for me because I don't understand where his application is. I will say the only other upside that I do like about him is we talked about vanilla pilots versus Sabine earlier. Like Chewie could just be a vanilla pilot. He's kind of the same thing. Like if you don't have Han, you just put him on a guy turn 2 just because you're trying to deal as much damage possible. So I wouldn't cut him by any means. He's just like one of the first things to get sided out when I need space. In a lot of matchups.
The point that you made, right? So the you just need like vanilla pilots, right? So one thing that I found in the 30 HP is like you can't drop below like 7 or 8 pilots, right? So
right.
This is the next one, yeah. But it's a flexible side out card for a lot of side deck options. I do agree with that, and that does happen. But as a card on its own, I think there's like absolutely nothing wrong with it in any matchup, really.
All right. Speaking of needing more space, timely reinforcements. This is a card that has emerged, like in the list. What are you?
Yeah,
what's the reasoning, and where is it good?
A good number of people are playing this in the Data Vault version, not necessarily in 30, but some people are citing it in 30. But this is really good versus Rey and Kira.
Yep.
So I was citing Spark Rebellion earlier, and I was citing like Change of Heart at some points, right? I think this is better than both. Really, what you're trying to do versus those decks is go as wide as possible, and then also like just if it's the case of Rey, make sure that you're answering their small units. But the application of the game going long enough for this to spawn more than 3 tokens is huge, right? So yesterday in my match versus Kira Data Vault, opponent had an Avenger out and then was at 10 resources, and I spawned 5 X-Wings and then just 1 next turn. right? I can't think of like any other card that I would have played in that situation that would have won me the game like that. So,
all right, Alex. Thoughts on timely reinforcements?
I don't play this in my this is strictly a Data Vault card. I mean, I like it. I would play it if I played Data Vault. I can't speak directly to all the application. It is something that we had briefly discussed before Minneapolis. This was a card that we had discussed for Kira and maybe even Ray, but like we never ended up playing it. I never ended up really testing with it. I cannot speak to the applications of this card. I do think it's good, but just don't want to give my opinion on something I really haven't tested.
Some people were thinking this card may be good against Vader 4. I don't think it's that good versus Vader 4.
No.
I don't know about that, but it'd be good against Kira. It'd be good against anything that's super laser. But like,
yeah, anything I think you can reasonably spawn 4 or more tokens.
Yeah,
I
think that like if like the boss of the world too. I mean, you would want this if it's in your 60 or 70, I guess, if it's Data Vault, because it just creates a whole bunch of shit on the turn that's there. All right, Tantive 4. So this is in Sunny's list recently. Where are you looking at this, and where is it good?
Yeah, I think Alex has played it at some events as well. Tantive 4 is really big space unit that you can play on 7. Like the other option, Radis. And I was discussing with like a bunch of people that actually play Radis like in Han 2,
right,
and then even some in Han 1. But I still prefer like the fact that this is a Sentinel with a non-conditional Sentinel, right? Oftentimes you play it against any like space aggro deck at that point, and then they get walled and lose.
Yeah,
right? And then versus Kira, I think it's actually pretty good because of the extra token that you get. Anything that you're able to generate 2 bodies with 1 card is pretty solid.
And Radis can be a huge punish, like if they have no glory. Right?
Yes, Radish is
when defeated ends up hitting you.
Really bad versus Kira.
Right. So. All right, Salvage. Where are you guys using this? Let's start with Alex. I think it's in your sideboard.
Everywhere. This is like my like. So this happens sometimes when I play card games where there's a card I sided in every matchup, but I don't know what I'm supposed to take out. Like I need to know what I'm siding out because like there's cards in my deck that just aren't good in certain places.
Right.
And this is kind of just the master key of sideboard cards when I'm like, wow, I have these useless cards and I don't have anything to side in. Salvage comes in every time. I almost considered mainboarding this card. I absolutely love it. As a design philosophy, I think 0 mana cards are terrible design. Even though this card does make you pay resources,
right.
It is effectively enabling you to do something for free, which is to bring something back from the discard pile. I love this card. It comes in the grind games to bring back home 1. Right. It comes back in the Sabine matchups to get more fast Falcons if I run out of guys. It comes in the Quinlan matchups to fizzle Force Throw, Ahsoka, and just bring more ships back because, like I said, I'm trying to bring ships back. It comes in those matchups like the Cad, Quinlans, Sabines. Also, if they kill Hauler, I can bring Hauler back and interrupt them from doing that. I did that versus Mephisto in Swiss and Minneapolis. He killed my Hauler, and I actually brought it out of the grave. He knew I played it too. He took the risk hoping I didn't have it. And I think that like won me the game there single-handedly. Right. So I love this card. I think it's great. 2 has been a perfect number for me. I think this I can't say anything, sing higher praise for this card. This is my favorite card in the sideboard, hands down.
Sunny?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of this card. And always give like some credit to KTOD Maddie, Alex's teammate. Because he's where I originally got this idea, like even prior to. So I was playing this card even during the Django meta,
right?
And it never came out of like either the main deck or the side deck. In the Data Vault version, you can actually just main deck this card because you have the space. Yep. But applications of you like just destroying a resource from the row, always picking one of those space units, and then having this as an option to get those back. So good, right? I really like it with Tantive 4 especially, but Home 1 is insane as well. Like
I will extra shout out Maddie for this because from the moment this came out, even in Django meta, Maddie's like, I like salvage in Han Green. He would say this he would say this once a week in our chat. I love salvage in Han Green, and I was like, "Shut up, Maddie. Nobody's playing Han Green." Like he would say, he was the first one I know to say, "Why isn't salvage in Han Green? I like one salvage in Han Green. Where's salvage in Han Green?" Like, well, here you go, Maddie. You finally you got one right here, buddy. This was incredible. So shout out, Maddie.
Yeah, shout out to Maddie.
And then
he's a Quinlan player too. Originally, it's the last thing we want to see. So.
Oh yeah, we didn't mention that application. It being the zero cost, which Alex said is bad.
I think it was in his stream of consciousness gushing over salvage in there somewhere.
Yeah,
but
I said it fizzle. I said it fizzles force throw. That and Ahsoka. That's so yeah. That is a big part of it.
And for the force throw banners, that contingent out there, maybe it happens, maybe it not. But until it happens, maybe you should actually play some counters, and this is one of them.
Yes.
All right. First matchup here, Sabine. What is your game plan? You usually feel pretty good against the Sabine, Sunny?
I feel pretty good. They have one key line that blows you out, which is Sabine Masterpiece ECL when they have a green unit. Mm-hmm. The red unit can take out your turn one space play, but then they'll lose their unit as well, right? Their
ECL,
right?
Which is
and
huge.
their ECL, so it's not as great. But outside of that, like sometimes you lose to Darksaber and action compression, like Rebel Assault Darksaber plays. But for the most part, you can outrace them.
Yep.
Alex, lines into Spain. What's your game plan?
So this is a funny one I've actually been doing recently is actually if they're first, I look to see if they mull. If I think they're a competent player, if they mull, I'll actually keep any good hand, like even without the holler, because they can draw any 6 random cards. But when they snap keep and I know they know what's up, I'm going to mull and look for that holler because I have a ton of combination of hands that can beat them. Like there's so many combinations of hands that I can beat them with as long as they don't have this Sabine Masterpiece line. There's even a couple combinations of hands I can beat the action compression with like Rebel Assault, Fleet Lieutenant, Darksaber. But there's no combination of hand I can beat the Sabine's Masterpiece with that pretty much doesn't include the holler. Like maybe with the confiscate because I can take the coin off of it, and like if I can play another 3, maybe I can get going. But like I think in all the games where they started that, I think I've won one game ever in tournament where they started with Masterpiece on my turn 1 play and value traded it. So that's a little kind of like heads up pro tip. You see them mull, you're probably safe to keep a good hand. You don't see them mull, I would be looking for that holler.
Right.
Yeah, and that's I do the same exact thing too. I don't even think we talked about this, but we do the same exact thing. So I like watch and I see like, are they going to keep this hand? Do I need to hard mulligan for holler or not?
Which is a good point. As you get in events too, initiative matters for resourcing. Initiative matters for mulligan, and you're entitled to know whether they mull or not first. If you are not,
and one thing that I'll say is so I ran the math and their odds to start Masterpiece plus the green unit is lower than our odds to draw holler with just 3 copies because it's like a 2-card combo, right? So it's in our favor. And then the same point that Alex made where like if they ECL Sabine's Masterpiece, our win rate is like really, really low. It's the same flip side for holler. Like if we start holler, it's like a 90% win rate against them.
All right.
And then the one side deck card I will call out is R2D2 because that makes your other units into a holler.
Okay.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Exactly. R2's huge there.
All right. Quinlan matchup. Why don't you start with the general game plan, Alex?
Space. Throw space guys on the board. As I mentioned previously, I like to get a little wider than I do taller versus this match. Mm-hmm. Usually I want them to eat my first thing with the Tarkin Town. Then the second guy can start getting piloted. If I'm going to pilot, though, I much prefer the Han one because they are packing bamboozles. They are packing Fang Fighters. You don't want to get caught with your pants down against a bamboozle where you try to pilot a Chewbacca. They bamboozle you and just pretty much time walk your whole turn and get to develop 2. I'm just trying to get as wide as humanly possible in space. Hauler's your best friend. Fast Falcon's your best friend. Salvage is huge in the sideboard. General tips, I try to keep like a spell or a non-creature in hand just to discard for Ahsoka so they can't fizzle a turn. I try to resource the 7 so I don't get caught with my pants down when Force Throw comes around, because a lot of the times you won't be able to play a 7 because they'll Plo Koon your leader flip, or you'll get very low in hand. So if you're just holding like a 7 in hand, you don't want to blow them up. The singular best card in this matchup, actually, believe it or not, is Big Falcon. They cannot kill Big Falcon. It is pretty much insurmountable for them unless they play their own Big Falcon or they just like Force Throw it for 1 billion. Other than that,
right.
He's your bet. He's your dude.
Sunny?
Yeah, and the one thing I would add, so this is a list that I believe this is Michael's list.
This is Michael's list from Richmond, is what we're using to represent Quinn.
Yeah, so this list is actually like a reflection of playing against me a lot, right? So that's why like the Disabling Fangfighters are in the main, and then he has like all the space units too, and then
I think good Quinlan players have Fangfighters in the main. Thanks you guys for making us do that. But I mean, I think it is the case that you do that right now, and it's also Vader. Yep. It's also Sabine. With the Darksaber. But I think you just kind of have to, stomach your disgust and play it. I'm surprised he doesn't have the 3rd in the sideboard, because some matches you really need to find a Fang.
Yeah, and that's where I don't know if like people are going up to 3 now. Probably not, because the meta being a little bit more diverse than like having to hyper focus on Han. But this list, it loses a lot to that space line still. So that's definitely the approach that I would take. Space, and then maybe a smuggle out Big Falcon on the flip turn, like try to do it like playing around the Plo Koon, right? And then they may have to like contribute resources to even deal with it, and then you can flip Han in the clear somehow.
Yeah, no,
right? It comes up every now and then.
And I don't think that Quinlan likes this matchup. If you can avoid it, there's some things that you can do. I think he has actually a lot of the hate to the pilots in the main deck in this particular list.
Yeah.
Han Green is kind of susceptible naturally to discard if he's using his ability. So.
We are very susceptible to discard, but we do have a lot of smuggle as well, right?
So. Yeah. So, and I've actually started playing my jams into Han too, which has felt right, because it can hit the salvage and it can hit the, U-wings and stuff later. What about the mirror? This is, I think, your Richmond list is what we've been using to represent Han Green.
And this is a good list to put up for the mirror, like to discuss the mirror a little bit.
Yep.
So initially we thought the mirror was just like kind of a crapshoot. I got to credit my teammate Bobby Sapphire for this. He played this at a PQ and he played 2 mirrors, and he's like, Alex, the strategy is not all this like go space pilot, try to like cheese them nonsense. All you want to do is resupply and fight them on the ground. And I actually agree with that, having played this more. Especially once you get into game 2 where you get more confiscates. I don't have Traitorous in there anymore, but at the time we also had Traitorous too, so like they can't really get away with the space cheese anymore. I think even now my strategy in the mirror is just to resupply and try to dominate them on the ground with Enfys Nest and Han. Yes, sometimes you will get cheesed by that the Clown Car Falcon, like they'll assemble the Clown Car and there's nothing you can do and you just die. But most of the time, I would say for this one, you're just trying to fight on the ground, pretty much. Just ramp, flip early, get all that damage in, establish an Enfys Nest or a Han, and stick a blaster pump of your choice on them and just go to town.
Sonny?
Yeah, and this is where like the approach varies by player, I think. I've run into a good number of mirrors. I always usually like I consider myself a little favored because I know when to take that witch approach, right? Win the ground arena, win the space arena. I do agree with Alex that better approach is to win the ground arena, and because like, you can always like try to catch up if they're a little bit ahead. If you're playing Traitorous, you can always use that as a huge swing card, right? You have confiscates, right? So you can go ground and then have a confiscate deal with their pilot angle. But it's somewhat dicey sometimes. And I think initiative does matter a good bit in the mirror. That's the only thing that I think I would add.
What cards are you looking to
this list-
sideboard in for the mirror?
Yeah, it's confiscate, traitors if we have them. If you play Change of Heart, you can side that in. And there was a dynamic where I would, if I knew that they were playing confiscates and traitorous, I would also bring in Spark Rebellion if I had it. Yeah, because they might hold one of those against you to use on. So they might hold a confiscate to use on your traitorous. And then you just spark it away and then traitors them, right? That happens sometimes. So.
I would like to note this is the Richmond list too. Yep. So like the list you showed at the start and this list are different. So like this is the older list.
Yep.
In the newer list, it's just confiscate. I think there's not traitors, there's no sparks.
Yeah, I think in Minneapolis we did play Change of Heart, right? So I think you could bring that in the mirror. Yeah, but that's about it.
All right. And what are you taking out in the mirror?
Space stuff, probably Holler, maybe.
I don't take out Holler, but I do like cut a few things. Like Blue Leader could come out. Yeah. If we're at 3 Blue Leader, especially now, we could cut a Blue Leader.
Random space chaff, like something. I have a guide made up. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's just like random like space things that don't do a whole lot. Maybe Poe even like. Yeah.
All right. So this is Revolt, which is a great deck. It was the best converting deck in Minnesota. Didn't actually, I think, send one to the top 8, but best converting today too. What are you looking to do against this? I know that I asked Sunny, I think, about this for one of my events, as to Revolt, and you said 2-for-1 ground ambush, which is what I told Alex. He placed 16th and got a bye, by the way. So thanks for that.
Nice. So that got them there, the advice.
So I'll just say this, and so it's pretty much like I said before. Wu calls this 1-4 tribal or 2-4 tribal, whatever. It's pretty much what I described earlier in this video. Just you're looking to ramp, you're looking to slam them with ambushers, you're looking to slam them with your bombs. This is where I side up my Big Han and Memphis Nest. That's in my side right now, is just like get as many bombs there as you can, ramp, slay out the ground, just like trade until you put yourself in a position where you just like can't lose. I try to trap the Ray leader flip, so like just leave like a big Han or like an Enfys with the blaster, your like Han leader with a blaster in row. Just leave that up and try to hostage the leader till the very last action, so you have initiative. So if they flip the Ray, maybe you can kill it next turn, or maybe they don't flip it at all and you just get a free claim. But like you said, 2-for-1s with ambushers, this is pretty much the only way to play against this deck. Do not try to space race them. It won't work. You cannot outrace an entrenched. You put a Chewie on something they've entrenched, you die miserably. I don't care if you have the confiscate. Don't try it. It won't work. It's not worth it. Like, I'm trying to fight them on the ground 100% of the time.
Sunny?
Yeah, and this is where like I might have helped this deck get the answers to us. And now make us have to have that approach that Alex mentioned. So before Leal, Sarah reached out to me and it was like, what can I do against Han Green? I was like, okay, you have traitors and you have an entrenched. Those are probably like what I'm a little bit most scared of if I'm going the space route. And then that's what he ended up maxing out on. And so now we can't take that approach. We have to take the ambush, clear the ground and approach.
So if you ever want help beating the deck Sunny's piloting, just DM him,
Yeah.
There you go. All right, Vader Yellow. This is a deck that certainly has picked up. It did very, very well, I think, last weekend's PQs. I think maybe there was one this time. But what's the game plan here? Do you feel comfortable in this matchup? Let me ask you that.
Yeah, yes, I feel really comfortable with this matchup. I think if you're expecting a lot of this deck, then Han 1 green is your best choice going into an event. Because it can... So you have the 6 options to deal with their turn 1 space plays, right? Between Blue Leader and then your Fast Falcon. And then even beyond that, most of your space units are like 2-for-1 trading stuff. If you Han pilot, you can 3-for-1 stuff, right? It's pretty crazy how favored you can be sometimes. And then when you get to the flip, if you have confiscate in the main, you just nullify their flip, right? Or even post sideboard, you can nullify their split. If you play Tantive 4, then sometimes you even play that before they flip because you're going into the 7 and then just play that and then they're walled before they even flip out at 6.
All right. Alex?
Yep, pretty much just look for fast unit. You're looking for fast Falcon. You're looking for blue leader. If you have initiative and you mull and you don't find one of those, even an A-wing is fine because you'll have initiative to trade at least one of the guys. If you open if you open a fast Falcon and a blue leader, if you go first, you should win almost every single time, like almost pretty handedly. I will say this one thing. Important, try to keep the 6-drop Falcon in your hand so you can ambush with it. 2, don't underestimate this deck. It's extremely resilient. That Clone Combat Squadron can just come in and ruin your life. Waylay that guy, get rid of him off the board in any way you can, because one of the ways they do win is they get that guy down, they barrage your board, and then they flip Vader on it, and you can just, like, even if you've been dominating, you can just lose the game. And know when to turn the corner. You trade for a very long time in, like, the first 3 turns, but at some point you do have to start attacking their base, even if they do have units on the board. So understanding when that turning point is occurring is crucial for you, because they are 30 HP base. They're not squishy. They really can leverage their ability to race you with that Vader pilot. So you do just have to be careful. I will say you can very easily die to this, especially if you don't open one of the fast ships. So, like, this is one of the easiest decks where, like, it's like I could teach a computer to mull against this deck. Just fast ships, that's all you want. If your hand doesn't have that, you're mulling it. I don't care how good it is.
Right.
Yeah, and one card I would say that you need to be cognizant of is a Sanctuary Shuttle.
Yep.
Especially if you're if you're trying to go the pilot route, like where we've been advocating not to do in most of this master class, Sanctuary Shuttle will, like, blow you out. So.
Right. The other Han Green, young Han Green. This is the Data Vault version that Crispy has. There's an ECL version. There's a 30 version. But, I mean, they all kind of do some of the same stuff. But what are you trying to do when this matchup on? How do you feel about it, first off, when you see a red Han?
So I expressed my concern, I think, about 2 nights before to Sunny about both this and the Han ECL deck. I still, to this day, have never once played a Han ECL deck, not online, not anywhere, I don't think, a Han 2 ECL.
Yep.
So this one I was concerned about. I got paired into, as I mentioned earlier, Code Dameron, I think, round 7 in Minneapolis. And I went up to Maddie, who was playing the deck, and I was like, Maddie, what do I do? And he's just like, just resupply and play your bombs. This deck can't really deal with your bombs. So I was like, all right, sounds good enough to me. That's exactly what I did. Funny enough, game 2 of our match, this is a true story. Game 2 of our match, I got him game 1. I felt like I barely won that. Game 2, I go to flip. I resupply. He chams. I go to flip, and I thought about all the outs he could have to stop my Han flip. So I put one down. I go to flip. His board is cham and his leader, because that's what he did first action flip. He goes timely intervention heavy, which has raid 2, kill your leader. And I immediately show him my hand. It's Ewing, Enfys Nest, Big Han. I have no smuggles in row. And he's like, oh no. And I was like, yeah, I actually won that game. And what I'll emphasize with this story is that the bombs are everything. Like I said earlier in this video, this deck doesn't deal with cards with the HP 6 well. They have, They have the Mace 5 attack. They've got Wrecker, I think, in the side somewhere. Okay, this version doesn't play Wrecker. Colby did play Wrecker.
Right.
Code Dameron played Wrecker, 5 damage. The 5/7 ship, whose name escapes me.
Rebellious Hammerhead.
It's really hard to... Yeah, thank you, Hammerhead. It's very hard to have 6 cards in hand. It's not actually all that hard to have 5 cards in hand. Blue Leader, all these things hit for 5. 6 is the magic number, so when you get an Enfys Nest or a Big Han out there, it's just insurmountable. So yeah, and Colby Code Dameron's the one who told me that himself. So right. I mean, he's a great player too. So it's very hard to kill things with 6 HP with this deck.
Sunny, matchup advice for Hantu.
Yeah, the one thing I'd say about Hantu ECL and Hantu Data Vault is the unit card pool seems to change a ton.
Uh-huh.
So recognizing like what they have based on the first game is kind of important. 2 cards in particular, I'm kind of scared of. Poe, the 5-coster, right?
Yeah, the red.
If they get like 2 of those effects off against you, it's kind of game breaking sometimes. And then Crate Dragon, if they're able to like grind out and then play Crate Dragon, and you can't play your like U-wings or home ones, at that point it gets kind of dicey. But you have to take the approach that Alex mentioned, right? That probably you want to resupply, get ahead, and then keep dropping big unit after big unit before they get to that Crate Dragon turn.
All right, Cad Bane did well in Minnesota. This is Moo's list for Richmond. Great player. What are you looking into Cad Red? Why don't we start with Sunny on this one?
Yeah, I think CAD, I kind of approach it similar to Quinlan and even Sabine to a certain extent. So it's more close to Quinlan because it has a ping and Tarkentown. But there is a little bit of a difference in the fact that I do want to ramp and be ahead of them in some games versus Quinlan. I didn't take that ramp approach that much. I take the space approach most often. But I think either game plan can work pretty well against Cad Bane. Salvage is really good versus this deck because they prioritize like killing stuff with McClunky a lot, and then you can just salvage them back and then keep putting pressure. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you even like there's been turns where I've played a Fast Falcon and then played it again later, like in when I have 6+ resources, right? And then you'd have to do things like that. This deck struggles to some of the like late game units that we have. They have Cad Bane. I think the Tarkentown deck plays Cad Bane. The green version certainly does. Yeah, I see it here. But we have one great out, and that's like L3. So smuggling out, and that raw is capturing back your units and then swinging it. So yeah, the goat, like Alex said.
Yeah, that was a big point of debate for us going into Richmond. Was I insisted we play 3L3. Sunny ended up only playing 2 there, but this guy was awesome. I think I played against Ray Tan actually in Swiss at Richmond, and I think in game 2 I freed 3. I cast all 3 of my L3s to free a guy, so it was pretty sick.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Kira. This is Tada's list from Richmond, so it's evolved a little bit. You can check out the masterclass he and Wu did after Minnesota. Actually, it was before Minnesota because we talked about the Callus thing and then it appeared. But what are you doing if you're going against Kira? Why don't we start with Alex?
I'm looking to ramp. This is where I talked about earlier. There's some decks you just have to ramp against. This one, more than all of the other ones, you have to be ramping against this deck. You cannot let that Kira flip a turn earlier than your Han. They just get to destroy your life when they do. I'm actually also looking to play a 2-drop on turn 1. I don't typically resupply on turn 1. The only time I'll resupply turn 1 is if I have like a Poe to play already in my hand. That's like the only exception. Otherwise, I'm actually looking to play a 2-drop. All the cards in your hand are so important in this matchup, and you're not by any means trying to just throw cards away. Like, what's the difference between a 3/4 Falcon and a 3/2 Vanilla? There isn't versus Kira. Like, there's almost no difference. Like, they all get equalized by Barrage Kira flip. So, like, it doesn't really matter. You're never going to have enough health on board to dodge all that stuff by the flip turn. So I would rather just play a bot or a 3/2 in space, save the extra cards in hand. This is one of the only matchups Chewie goes on the ground. You're really looking to U-wing Chewie in a 2E. That's like the optimal configuration, but sometimes you do Poe and like a fast Falcon. Kieran, a fast Falcon is one of my personal favorites too. Like there's just like a couple of Ewing combinations that are very important in this matchup. But the biggest thing I can emphasize is ramp, ramp, ramp. Like you just need to play one resupply. Ideally, it's on turn 2 because you do want to be able to flip at pace, get that Ewing off. Other small things like using the blue leader and the little Han to kill that Kira when it flips is really big. That's a value trade too, so that's huge. And kind of just like once you get in the late game, just like endlessly just playing units, like just trying to play 2 units a turn. This deck doesn't 2-for-1 very well, especially in the early game. And then when you get into that 8 resource turn, to be playing around Super Laser Blast. So ejecting your Falcon if you don't have more than 2 other units on board, trying to play Chewie going into that turn, so it makes their Super Laser Blast really hard. Just stuff like that. Just like little things that you kind of learn over time.
Yep. And oftentimes Chewie into the ground arena. I think you said before, yes.
Yeah.
So you do play in space. Actually, this is the one deck where you ramp and you actually don't want the Han and Emphasis. I actually don't like Han's okay. I actually think Emphas is really bad in this matchup. It almost always dies. It doesn't, all the things it can bounce, like the only good bounce target for it is honestly the Walker. The rest of them are terrible because they just come in and do things and probably ruin your life anyways. So I will say, even though it's a matchup you want to ramp, you're trying to Ewing because you just want multiple bodies. You're not actually looking to churn out like Big Han and Emphas like all the other decks you want to ramp against.
Sunny, Kira?
Yeah, if I had to pick one deck that is a bad matchup for Han Green, it's this one for sure.
Right.
The other ones that we mentioned, well, we have great game plans, or just inherently are good against. But this one, they have more ramp than we do. So I know that Alex says we want to try to ramp, but usually we can't beat them in that aspect because they have just double the amount of it. And then their late game units are just more impactful than our late game units for the most part. So that being said, you have to just take the go wide approach as much as possible. And then retain cards in hand.
What are you sideboarding for Kira?
There's so many sideboard options. We talked about timely reinforcements. That's insane if it gets to the late game because it fits into the exact game plan we want. I tried sideboarding like Spark Rebellion in the past, Change of Heart in the past, but those are good to a certain extent. But I think timely reinforcements is the best one now. So if I had to pick one card to side against that, I would side that.
Salvage coming in?
I would say, yep. So I bring in pretty much my whole side against this. I bring in 2 salvage, 2 home 1. I don't bring in R2, and I don't bring in the 1 extra confiscate because they don't really play traders anymore. And even if they do, I don't care. But 2 home 1, 2 salvage, and I don't bring in the Big Han or the Enfys anymore. It's just not like it. Like I said, those cards aren't very good versus them. So
definitely salvage and home 1 if those are in your side.
Change of Heart.
Change of Heart. I'm still coming off the data vault version. That's why I said like I only side these. But like home in the 30 HP version, you have salvage and home 1 in the side deck, right? So then you'll definitely bring those in addition to like Change of Heart or timely reinforcements, right? So it could be quite a bit of cards, but home 1 is great into this matchup because not only does it like give you the 2 bodies, but it gets you that ready Falcon to keep like applying low pressure. So
anything that plays multiple things at once is how you typically attack Kira. So you have for this deck Ewing and you have home 1, that can bring it back, and then anything that brings back from discard, right? Because it has the ability to remove.
Yeah, and then the one thing we didn't cover is like approaching that Kira flip turn.
Yep.
Making sure that you know how to navigate them like flipping and then nullifying your Han. Sometimes you still do that and go to 7. Sometimes you need to like make sure that your Han doesn't die, so that you can still go to 7 next turn because you might get stuck on 6 again, right? And have to use a card from hand and might not have the leverage, right? So there's a lot of little things you have to play super carefully in this matchup.
All right, last one. Heart Control. This is Duncan's list, who's on your team, but we have Bosk representing Heart Control. But what are you trying to do to get over that hurdle?
Yeah, I think this is easier than Kira for sure because they don't have ramp.
Yeah.
that's just the reason.
They don't have barrage. They don't have ramp. They don't have Kira to equalize the board. This is the same strategy as Kira, except way easier. Like way easier.
Yeah. And there are a lot of times, like what Alex mentioned about Kira using like they're not 2-for-1ing stuff except for with barrage. This deck is like almost never like 2-for-1ing stuff.
Basically, it's all single target removal. You know,
Poe is like God.
And then it hits multiple things or something like that. Yeah, but
like Poe is like the goat against this deck because it actually just like it's just like you wing and make 3 guys and it's like so like it's so insurmountable for them. Like they're just I pretty much same sideboard. The one thing I'd change is I would actually bring in the confiscates versus this just for their bounties. But I mean like. This you're just looking to like kind of just ramp and like go to town on them. I haven't actually ever played this deck in tournament because nobody really plays it, but I did play against it a few times online and against some of my teammates, and it felt like Kira on easy mode pretty much.
All right, we'll hop back to this. Both of you have done very well at the set 4 events. Let me ask you this. What is your mindset as you're kind of updating a deck between sets? We're going to have a bunch of new cards coming for, set 5. I mean, what are you looking for as these reveals happen and you start kind of looking towards testing? Like, say, hey, I may want to take Han Green at Galactics. What are you doing as you're trying to update? We'll start with Sunny on that.
Yeah,
you've been a Han Green for 4 sets now.
Yeah, since I've been a Han Green player since like just the start of the game, basically the single most like important slot in Han Green has always been that 7 slot because you can just flip and then ramp into it, right? So assessing like what is the right fit of 7s post set 5 is a big thing to think about because we got
so to take an example, you're talking about there's a 7-drop green unit now that has like a home 1 similar effect. Is that appealing?
Yeah, exactly. Keller and Beck, right? Yeah. So that card,
homie 1.
What was it?
Homie 1.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's very strong. But like the thing with the new set is very force based, right? So if you incorporate some of the new cards that are on 7 and 8 that are they work best with that force trade, or they pull force cards that work best with that full force trade, then you got to think about do you want to take that approach, right? Just some food for thought, but I don't know the answer yet.
Alex, what are you thinking about as you're like tweaking a deck, moving towards a meta, towards like the beginning of a set in a CCG? I know you play many.
Honestly, I'm a pretty bad, like I'm a good tweaker. A good deck tweaker. Let me rephrase. I'm a good deck tweaker, but I'm not a very good like from scratch guy. And that's why I do so well with teammates, I think, is because it's nice to have people who actually like to play decks and try things. I don't do that. I hardly ever try things. A lot of my stuff is just like grinding with the same list over and over and over and over again and kind of finding some small holes. One thing I will say, and I don't do this so much for deck tweaking, but I do it just like when I'm thinking about breaking games in general, is I have like a checklist of like interactions that I look for every set. So like an example would be like I see a card and I go, oh, if they ever printed a 0-cost card, this card would be broken. Or like every time I see a card, I think about how this could interact with something else and I actually write it down in my phone of interactions I'm looking for. So I have like a few right now I'm looking for in SWU, but like there are some like I look for interactions that could break the game, and so far in this game they've been really, really good about not letting any of that stuff slip through. Like they like really safeguard a lot of these cards. Like I had a crazy idea. Like if Lando Calrissian, for example, just said if his effect could be activated more than one time a turn, for example, I have like some crazy ideas with that. But like you can't do that. So like there's just like small little things that like to a player they might look at it and go, what is the point of this like limitation? But to someone like me, I see that limitation and go, Oh, they thought about that. Okay. And that's the stuff I'm looking for. It's just like these crazy interactions that I kind of like keep a checklist of and like try to see where I can like kind of break the game.
All right.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, and then the one interaction that wasn't done was the TJ and Han, right? That became a problem.
Yeah.
It's a tech DJ, in the first place. So, and I think that's a good point. I mean, really, when you're talking about a game like this, everybody's so good. As far as the pilots that are competing at the high level, you got to kind of try to play as much broken stuff as you can, until you get your deck suspended, which has happened to some of our mutual friends a couple of times. Han Green, not yet. There was talk of suspending the Han leader.
Rip Han Yellow.
But, didn't happen. I mean, it is probably the case that as, you were talking about the force-centric, that tends to be ground-centric. I mean, it may be that the space lane is what's open, there, and then, this is in a good spot.
Yeah, you also always have to think about that positioning with the new set, like what is coming out of the new set, and then are some of the older decks better positioned because they can abuse something that the newer decks don't focus on, right?
Right. All right. So this has been very informative. I mean, expert, job, which is what we expect. Sunny, what's going on with Team Sekrit nowadays? If they want to get some more from you.
Yeah, we're doing a podcast every Monday. We have a multitude of guests. Alex joined as a guest for one podcast, and they're getting pretty popular. We do them live, so people join on Monday nights, and we try to talk about current meta topics, and then also just like various random board game and tournament community kind of topics. So it varies quite a bit.
No,
and we are getting into streaming. We're going to stream a PQ in a couple weeks. So following in your footsteps, Loopy.
Yep. So happy to help, with that stuff. I did see your message, by the way, and we'll get your team in coverage chat.
Yeah.
But Team Sekrit has been great. We'll have the links in the descriptions for there. And yeah, the podcast is cool. And it is cool that you're doing a podcast live because, I mean, that's not something that really kind of exists elsewhere. What about you, Alex? What's going on at KTOD?
We're just getting ready for Worlds. I don't do much of the content side. In fact, every other single member of KTOD has a content thing now. I'm the only one, and I'm honestly just because I'm lazy. That's all there is to it. I do a lot of coaching, though, so if you guys ever need coaching, I am not just a Han Green player. I do, in fact, know how to play other decks in SWU. But I do about 25 hours of coaching now a week, give or take. Like, I think last week I did 23-ish. So if you guys need coaching, please feel free to hit me up. That's what I spend most of my week doing anyways. So.
And I've heard that before, and I'm glad we're able to get you to do the masterclass here. Certainly well-deserved with the things. We'll put the KTOD Patreon, is one of the absolute best place for deck building too. When you need to bounce stuff off. So great guys, great.
Shout out KTOD, and of course, Woo, and now Underwhelming Barrage. Make sure to check out Underwhelming Barrage if you guys liked Around the Horn on sports or ESPN.
Yeah, it's great. I really like it, and he's getting better a little time. And I think that Tata, it was funny. Somebody mentioned, that he was doing content for KTOD. I'm like, I think he's done way more content for late night than KTOD, honestly. But now that he's got the Underwhelming Barrage, that is really cool. So, and that's definitely something that we didn't have with kind of like the game show, and I saw the last one that had Chrono and Frank, and just the snark level was, at about set to ludicrous. All right. So any final words for the Han Green, fanatics out there? I think this is a very important thing. We spent a little bit more time than the other remaster class, but you had a lot more to talk about as to the changes here. Any final words for the Han Green enthusiasts? Let's start with Alex. We'll let Sunny close it. But what are your last words of wisdom, Alexander the Greatest?
I mean, it's not a pilot deck, guys. Stop trying to play Chewy on turn 2 and go to town and hope they don't have an out. That's the most important advice I can give to everybody who's playing this deck in the next 2 weeks. Don't do that anymore.
Maybe later. Sunny, take us home.
Yeah, the only thing that I'll add to that is I hear a lot of people say that this is like a really high ceiling deck and low floor deck. I don't think that that's the case at all. It's if you do what Alex said you shouldn't be doing, right? You take those high ceiling lines and then you get blown out, and then now you have such a low floor, right? So that's a misconception with this deck is what I want to call out.
All right, so check out Team Sekrit, check out KTOD. This was excellent for a remaster class. Will I see you guys both at Galactics?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, yep. I'll be there.
We'll see you two there. And for everybody who watched this power, you are my hero. We'll be back with Han Green probably until it rotates, updating time for time. But thank you so much for doing this with us.